Shout out to this fan for coming up with the idea to this video. If you have any cool future ideas for a video, let me know in the comments below. I may just give you a shout out. Today I am ranking all 7 of Zack Snyder's films. As you can tell from the thumbnail. Zack Snyder's career is very interesting due to the fact that some people love his films and some people hate his films. It's completely like split down the middle sometimes. And I'll go into that more once we start actually hitting the ranks of the movies. But before I begin, let me just say, at one time Zack Snyder was my favorite director. It's just crazy because some of his films really do grab me and then others make me go, But of course, like I say in every single one of my videos, this is just my opinion. So I hope you respect my opinion because I respect your opinion in the comments below. But without further ado, let's begin. At number 7, I wanted to put number 6 here so bad due to the fact that I didn't really care about it either, but honestly I have to go with my own personal opinion and I put Dawn of the Dead here. Now the reason why I have Dawn of the Dead here on the number 7 spot is due to the fact that it's just kind of a sloppy zombie film. It feels almost rushed in a sense. I don't know why that feels to me, maybe it's just me, but I've heard other people say it too, so I don't think it's just me. I mean, don't get me wrong, the premise at the time definitely wasn't overdone yet. I mean, now it's way overdone, you know, zombies are everywhere. But before it was kind of an interesting return to the zombie genre, but at the time, there was also a more popular series going on called Resident Evil. Now sure, the Resident Evil films have definitely declined in terms of quality, very much so over the last few years. I guess it's like the last 10 years now. Jeez, how old am I again? Anyways, Dawn of the Dead pretty much had no character development and no real story to it. It's just kind of like survivors are stuck in the mall and there's zombies outside. And the zombies eventually get in because someone's stupid, and you know how this all goes down. It's a formula we've seen so many other things before. They just added zombies, and now we see it all over the place, but at the time, we haven't seen that really that much. So you'd think they'd really try to make a very interesting story with good characters and all this extra stuff going in, because this is survivors surviving the zombie apocalypse. Of course, it's a different type of zombie apocalypse compared to what we see in like The Walking Dead, which they do it perfect in my personal opinion. But like I said in the very beginning of this, feels lazy, feels rushed, and it's just not that great of a film, especially when you compare it to the original. Now, of course, the original is hindered by its time and when it was made, so it's definitely not that good of a film, but I mean, it is still a legendary film, and I still love it, so whatever. Now, I've paid my respect to the dead who are dying, so let's move on to number 6. That's a good segue. I think it was a good segue. Hey guys, do you guys think that was a good segue? At number 6, we have Legend of the Guardians, the Owls of Gayhole. Gay hole. So the reason why I have this one at number 6 is because I was going to put it at number 7 due to the fact that I don't really care about this film. And I actually didn't know this was a Zack Snyder film until researching for this actual video. So there's a fact you didn't know about me. I don't care about my directors. Just kidding. But for real, this film is just an okay film to me. I did see it. It's an interesting film. I feel like it might be better if it had like humans in the place of the owls, but I understand why it's like that because it's based on a book that's for kids, so that would make sense why it's that. But I have to give credit where credit is due. This film has a very interesting premise, but it's just not my type of film. I can see if I was younger, when I was like a kid or something, this would be an awesome film to me, but it's just not that great compared to some of Zack Snyder's other films, in my personal opinion. I would say it's good for what it is, but it's not my type of film, so yeah, let's just move on to number 5. At number 5, I chose Sucker Punch. Now for Sucker Punch, this is a very cool film to me. I remember when I first heard about this film and I saw a trailer for it, I thought this looks really stupid, and then one day it was on like free on like Encore or something on like Comcast, you know, that one thing that no one ever watches that you have. So I started watching that. Actually, it wasn't that bad of a film. I definitely think like the main girls were really good looking, so that's a plus to this film. To me personally, I think that Zack Snyder is a very good comic book director. Most of his films that he does is based off comic books, and they feel like comic books, and this one felt like a comic book to me. And I think that's why a lot of people are actually mixed about Zack Snyder's films, because he's a comic book director, you know, so sometimes what he does is he makes a comic book movie. Some people don't particularly like that, some people do. And some people don't like the fact that he messes up something like source material wise, and some don't really care. And I'm more of the don't really care, because I don't really know the Sucker Punch comic book. I never read it. I do read comic books, and I feel like this comic book movie was a good one. I mean, sure, it wasn't that great of a film, but at least it was fun. It has good action, it has good humor, it has hot chicks, you know, what else would you want? And I mean, come on. And one of the biggest complaints I have about this film is that Sucker Punch is a crappy story, and I would beg to differ. I think the story is fine. Sure, it's a little weird, but it's a comic book movie. It's supposed to be weird. That's part of it. I don't even know what more to say about it. It's an interesting film. It's fun to me. That's what type of film it's supposed to be. Calm down about it. Jesus. Let's move on to number 4. At number 4, I have Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Now, this is the most recent film to come out from Zack Snyder, and it really isn't that bad. Sure, it's not great, and there are some things they could have made much better, but it's not that bad. Especially when you throw the Ultimate Edition into it, it makes it twice as good. Now, I have this one above movies like Sucker Punch due to the fact that it's a fun film to me too. One thing I will say is that Zack Snyder always excels in making comic book movies, and for some reason he took a comic book property and he decided to make it more realistic than comic booky. And I don't understand why he would do that, because he's so good at making comic book movies, so why doesn't he do that with an actual comic book property? But don't get me wrong, I like the realism of the Superman. I think the Superman now is much better than the ones we had in the past due to the fact that it is so much more realistic feeling. And I went further into this with my 8 Batman movies ranked video I did, link on screen. Now sure, there are plenty of cons you could point out about the film, but I would say there are enough pros to say that this film is alright, if not decent. First off, the action is the best it's ever been, even better than Man of Steel in my opinion. Second, in my opinion, Ben Affleck just beat Christian Bale for Batman, which is crazy considering Christian Bale was Batman to me, and now Ben Affleck is more Batman to me, which is saying something. And thirdly, Wonder Woman may have been shoehorned in there a little bit, but she still was a good addition to the film and I enjoyed her. Now sure, the story wasn't that great, and like I said, there could have been some major improvements into this film, but the film is fun, and if you want action, this is the film for you. Plus, I like the more gritty Batman who kills people, just saying. At number 3, I have Man of Steel. Honestly, everything I just said about Batman v Superman is the exact same way with Man of Steel. And in my opinion, it gets more flack than it deserves. I went more in depth with this in my 7 Superman movies ranked, link on screen. But the biggest problem I hear people have with this film is all of the destruction. Oh, there's too much destruction. It's mindless destruction. And I'm thinking like, what do you mean mindless destruction? These are bad guys. This is a comic book movie. Of course there's destruction. This is a movie about Superman. There should be destruction. The whole destruction thing was to show the entire world in this universe that they're not alone. And I think it did exactly that. And the fact the whole world saw Superman actually save everyone, that shows that although they're not alone in the entire universe, they're still good out there. And even if they can't stand up against these Kryptonians, Superman is there to help them. I think that's a great message to send. And I don't understand when people complain about that. In fact, one of the biggest complaints, if I remember, about Superman Returns was the fact that it didn't have enough action. But Zack Snyder is holding action right in your face and he's just like, action, here's the action, take the action, and everyone's complaining about it. So it's like, I don't know what people want. That's probably how he feels about it. But I'm done ranting about this. Move on to number 2. At number 2, I chose Watchmen. For me personally, The Watchmen is a great film. I think it's one of the most realistic takes on if superheroes were actually alive, because they're not actually superheroes. There's only one real superhero in this entire universe. And I think it's cool that other people are actually kind of like normal humans doing their own thing, and it's just kind of working that way. Now, just like with Sucker Punch, I didn't actually read the original comic book, so I do hear people complaining about the source material not being followed, especially in the end. But I think overall the film was good. I love the characters, I love the theme of the film. There's something about it just kind of draws me to it. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I still really enjoy it, even though it was just okay to me, but I don't know, I just like it. And even though there seems to be only a little bit of action in this comic book movie, it's still pretty good. And I definitely think it doesn't deserve nearly as much flack as it gets. It's a fun film with a gritty premise, and I think it does exactly what it needs to do. And I'd say out of all of Zack Snyder's films, this is probably the smartest one. But of course, that's just my opinion. And in the number 1 slot, we have 300. If you watch my other videos, I love my sword and sandal movies. That's just how things work. And 300 is one of the best. This was actually the first Zack Snyder film I saw besides Dawn of the Dead. And this film made me love him. If you ever heard of the term comic book movie, this is the comic book movie. It's beautifully shot. It has awesome fight scenes, perfectly choreographed, a great score, and so many awesome one-liners you'd think Arnold Schwarzenegger was in this film. I actually remember that this was the first R-rated film I snuck into the theaters to see. It was 3 of my friends and I, and we actually went to the movie theaters to go see like some kiddie film or whatever. And my one friend's mom was like, hey, do you guys want to see the 300 instead? And we're like, yeah, let's go see it. And she's like, well, I don't want to stay, but I'll get you guys in. And we're like, whoa, holy crap. So what she did was she bought 5 tickets, including herself, and she actually paid for us to go in, but then she took her ticket back out and got a refund, and we were in the movie theater already, so we were able to see 300. And I remember it being an awesome spectacle. Gotta love that bloody CGI. It was unlike anything we've seen before. In the entire film, we were looking back and forth at each other like, oh my god, oh my god. Now you gotta keep in mind, we were like 12-year-olds, right? So when the sex scene happened, we were kind of like, whoa, holy crap, you know how that works. But of course, the blood and the sex aside, this film was really fun. It was the embodiment of action. Like I said earlier, it was the perfect comic book movie. You know, now that I think about it, I actually haven't seen that movie in a while, so I'm gonna go watch that after I'm done with this video. But this movie had heart, it had awesome action, blood, sex, beautiful men. What was that? I mean, beautiful blood and gore. Yeah, that's what I meant. And it was a massive stepping stone in my adolescence, and I'll never forget it. But of course, this is just my list. What is your ranking of this list? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe if you guys enjoy my videos, and until next time guys, we'll see ya. Peace.